All right, so welcome back. We're here for part two of our episode 2 of the CQQC podcast. We have two new guests on with us this evening. We have Calder and Matt. So obviously we know you guys from our experience with playing Quidditch, but we want to let our viewers know a little bit more about you guys in terms of like where you're from, how many years you've been playing Quidditch, just a little bit of background information on you guys, and then we'll get into our main discussion about the physical and athletic side of Quidditch. So Calder, I don't know if you want to go first, and then we'll move on to the Matt.
Yeah, my name's Calder Schweitzer. I've just graduated University of Guelph, played Quidditch 4 years there. 1.5 seasons for Royal City, and then 3 years total, 2.5 for Guelph. There was a weird half season off in the middle of there, but 4 years over it, and just recently retired. Had a brief stint there with the Toronto Raiders at the first third of the season, but yeah, mostly Guelph, Royal City.
Right on.
Nice.
I'm Matt. I'm from Sudbury, Ontario, and I'm currently first year engineering at Queen's. I'll be done in 2 days. I've been playing Quidditch for 3/4 of a season. Thanks, COVID. Yeah, my experience is pretty limited. I haven't even been to a regionals yet, but I've got about 3 tournaments under my belt, so looking forward to future seasons.
Nice, awesome. So thanks for that little intro there, guys. We'll hop right in then to our main discussion of the podcast, which was going to be more about the physical and athletic side of the game. So obviously, Quidditch had its roots in Harry Potter and whatnot, but as we've kind of seen over the last couple of years, as the sport kind of grows, it's kind of shifting more towards the more athletic individuals, I guess you could say. So maybe if you guys wanted to expand on the sports you played prior to Quidditch, or maybe you kind of played alongside Quidditch, whether it was in university or just coming into university through high school or whatnot. It's what sports you played, and then maybe some of the skills you thought that could because of the sport you played carried over to Quidditch. So Matt, if you want to start.
Yeah. So growing up, I've played about one full organized season of just about every major sport you can play in a city, right? I played a season of baseball for my elementary school. I played soccer a lot when I was younger, but the huge one was hockey. I was always a huge hockey player, and I used to suck, just as as kids do, right? But then I got put into a few intensive training camps, and then I got really, really good, and I had that opportunity to play competitive hockey, but my parents didn't let me because, one, it was just a very toxic environment. It's just, especially in Sudbury, the hockey environment is just really awful to be in, and my parents didn't want me in that. And two, they had no idea that I was ever going to grow into the giant dominant athlete that I did. So I guess a bit of a wasted opportunity there, but after I tried just about everything, eventually got to the point where I started playing volleyball in grade 7, 8. And then pretty much all my time was devoted to volleyball. I still played hockey on the side, but eventually I made the leap to club volleyball, playing at the highest competitive level I really could. And it just kind of became my sport. Just played volleyball nonstop every day, every month of the year, Even in the summer, I'd play beach, which is a lot different from indoor, but it's volleyball nonetheless. And I eventually got to a point where last year my team got a bronze medal at provincials, being one of the only Sudbury team to even play in the OVA in over 20 years or something like that. And now I played for them for 4 years. We never even medaled at a tournament. The team changed up a lot, but by my last year we really killed it. And school volleyball was huge for me as well. Again, a couple rough years with poor coaching and management of the team at my school, but then in my 4th year of grade 12, we won our regionals and we managed to go to OFSA. So I don't know. I think I peaked in high school, guys. Grade 12, I don't think I'm ever going to beat it. Grade 12, I don't think I can beat it. But I was in contact with Queen's coaching, and I was interested in playing volleyball for Queen's, but there was very little chance I'd have any free time because I was going into the engineering program. And, I'm good, but I don't know if I'm Queen's level, I probably could have made it as a bench warmer though, for sure. like I give myself a decent chance to make the team, but it just wasn't worth it for me time wise. So I was like, well, crap. Now what do I do? And that's where Quidditch came along.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. What about you, Calder?
I've just been taking mental inventory, and I did a lot of sports. I was good. I was good at precisely none of them. But I grew up doing a lot of sports. I was a god-awful gymnast for a while. I did competitive swimming for a couple of years. The big ones in high school, I've got 12 seasons of rugby under my belt, 10 of which were full contact. I did a couple years of flag. Like, I started when I was like 8 years old, so I was playing flag with those guys. But I did that. That's my biggest sort of sports perspective coming into Quidditch. And that's what when I got to university, I had since stopped playing rugby for my own reasons and was looking for something to fill that rugby-sized hole in my heart, and found a full contact sport that was weirdly aligned with one of my nerdy interests, which was really interesting. But that was my major one. I did a couple seasons of football as well, where I was pretty good at getting in the way on the line. And did a few sports sort of alongside Quidditch while I was going through university. The one which I don't know how I managed to get into, just the weirdest sports you could think of, but I took underwater hockey pretty far. I ended up at my peak. I ended up playing for Team Canada at the World Juniors. Flew to Australia and stayed there for 2 weeks with the team. I was there for a little while beforehand, but 2-week long tournament. We came dead last. We didn't win a game. Came very close. We were competitive with the U.S., but then everybody else was just miles ahead of us. Yeah.
What is underwater?
North America is not underwater hockey. Well, at risk of making a offshoot episode of a different podcast about a different weird sport. It's basically you hold your breath, your belly on the bottom of a pool with a one-handed stick, and then it kind of plays like hockey. You obviously can't shoot as far or that kind of thing, but it's very physical, and it's weird in the sense that you can't communicate with your team, and if you're ever playing, you're not breathing. Whenever you're taking your breaths, you're actively out of the game. So it's really, it's just different from any other sport.
I won in.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
I grew up playing hockey, so I won in. Yeah, I grew up playing hockey, and I'm from Sudbury. Like, we got the most lakes of any township in the world. Like, I'm a lake kid. I hate pools. I'm a lake. I mean, but I'm used to swimming, right? Like, swimming and hockey. That's what I grew up on.
Yeah,
that's cool,
good
man.
Stuff. Well, I think there's definitely Sudbury. Okay, I'm gonna sound like a terrible person here. Sudbury's close to the Sioux, right? I know they're both north. Is it not really?
The Sioux is like over 3 hours west, like three and a half hours west of Sudbury.
Okay. The only reason I say is that there's like a dominant underwater hockey team in the Sioux. Like, I've had my ass kicked by them multiple times.
That's amazing.
So that was I did that for a little while, and I've recently, my new sport I've been doing for the past 6 months or so has been boxing, and I've been kind of learning that and gearing up for training for my first fight and getting all that going. But so mental inventory. I've done a lot of sports, but Quidditch is by far the one that I did for the longest, discounting rugby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How tall are you, Calder?
How tall am I?
Yeah.
6'2", or just about.
Oh, shit.
This is.
Oh boy. I was like, maybe I should get into boxing. We can spar. It's 6'2". I'm like, no, we got about the same reach. I'm not fucking.
I think this is
a couple of years on me. Give me a couple of years.
This is by far the beefiest podcast episode we've had so far. Like, I'm pretty sure, Gabe, like, you're the smallest guy out of the four of us.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Like,
because Gabe's an absolute unit.
Yeah, like,
I'm a bit stretched out right now. I'm a bit stretched out right now. I'll get there. I'm 6'5", but I've got no upper body mass.
Yeah.
Awesome. So quickly, I just wanted to ask. I didn't ask in the other episode, but or part of this episode. Did you guys have like when you first like kind of approached Quidditch? Did you guys have a Harry Potter like were you Harry Potter fans? Like I know personally, like I enjoyed the movies. I didn't really read the books.
Same.
I got a little stick for that on the team. But like, did you guys have like a diehard like Harry Potter fandom when you first did it?
I'd seen every movie like twice.
Okay.
That's about it. If you showed me a Harry Potter meme, I'd understand it perfectly.
Okay.
But
I was the opposite. I read every book. I watched all the movies. I did all the Pottermore stuff. I had drank the Harry Potter Kool-Aid before I came to university, and that was actually like the driving force. Like that got me playing Quidditch was actually I was one of the Harry Potter kids, and then became an athlete.
Okay, very cool. Okay, so that kind of like segues into the second thing I want to talk about was like recruitment. So like obviously, Matt, you were with Queens and Calder you were with the golf program. So how did you first get introduced to the sport? Like was it like a club fair, and like what sort of things worked for you? I know Calder, you said you were like more Harry Potter fan. Matt, you were kind of like more towards like I guess like.
I have a hilarious story for this.
Okay.
So, it's March break. 2019, and I'm at the Queen's open house, right? So I'm there with my grandmother. We drove all the way to Kingston from Sudbury, and we got there. We did the open house, and we were just walking around. We were checking out the campus, and I was just blown away. And on the corner of Uni and Union there, like right in front of the J-Duck, was a little table with a little booth there, and it was Lydia and Megan, who were running like a little Quidditch bake sale. And I was just walking by, and they were like, hey, you're tall, come over here. And they beckoned me over, and they told me all about Quidditch. And they're like, you would be perfect as a keeper. And I'm like, oh, what? So they explained the whole sport to me, and it's, its intricacies. And they're like, yeah, we definitely, if you come, like, definitely come try out. Like, we'd love to have you. And then I believe it was Darby who came by, and I also chatted with her. I ended up chatting with them for like 20 minutes. But then I remembered that, and I went home, and I told everybody, like, yeah, I'm going to go play Quidditch at Queens. And it was mainly like I was trying to think of something to do once I got to Kingston, because like damn, I was gonna get out of shape really quickly without volleyball. Like volleyball was my life, right? And I knew I wasn't gonna be playing it, so I had to find something to do.
I know exactly what you mean, man. I swam for years. And you go into engineering, and then you're sitting on your butt for how many hours a day?
The perfect opportunity, like this exact thing I was looking, just comes descending down. I'm like, and I can run people over like I used to do in hockey. Oh my god! So I was set, and then I showed up to tryouts, the first day of tryouts, and I told Lydia the story of this is how I heard about Quidditch, and she was like, oh my god, I remember you! And then Darby came by. I remember you too, and it was amazing. I instantly bonded with the president and vice president. As soon as I showed up on the first day, I'm like, I better make this team. Yeah,
that's awesome. What about you, Calder? How did Guelph? Obviously, Guelph was an awesome program there. Like, how did it kind of entice you to the sport?
I came to university with the intention of playing Quidditch already.
Okay.
I mean,
yeah, my cousin, he retired a few years ago, but Hart Andren, who used to play for Waterloo, is my cousin, and I heard him. Brian, you look like you've seen a ghost.
So real quick anecdote here. Someone was posting on the CQA forum, and there was like a best plays montage. I think Golo posted it, and there was some video from our first year. And like because me and Calder started in the same year, and we were in the same like recruitment class. Obviously, I was a couple years older, but there was a video, and they were saying like top play from like Waterloo, and some like Waterloo players were like talking about it, and they're like Hart, I can't pronounce the last name, but like did this, and I'm like sitting there, I'm like, oh, let's see what happened, and of course it was a Guelph vs Waterloo game. Like, okay, cool. Hopefully it's not like me that gets deked out of his pants. And then, like, I see myself carrying the ball and get beat out. And I'm like, okay, I'm heading back to hoops. I'm not going to be, like, deked. And then I see, like, there was some small girl who was, like, running up the side of the pitch with it. And I see myself tagging back in, get back on my broom, and I go to, like, hit her. She throws right over my head. The person who they ended up passing to was your cousin, Calder.
Yeah.
Yep. So I was
Yeah,
like sitting there, I'm
uh,
like, oh wow, okay. And I like looked at this person, like, yep, okay, that's the person who just like basically put me on a poster without me even like realizing. And then yeah, cool, awesome, good to
Yeah,
know.
I remember to a degree him being I don't know who was doing it first, but I always remember sort of the John Gola brand of get behind the hoops and nobody's tall enough to cover you.
Yeah.
And I believe he did. He's a tall guy. I think that was he did quite a bit of that stuff. And I remember seeing that clip actually and commenting, that's my cousin. I know that guy. Yeah, so I heard about the sport from him, and of course, like it wasn't hard to convince me to try out. I was a massive nerd. But I really did come into it from like the fandom perspective. Like I was looking for sports and I liked rugby, but I'd been out of sports for a couple years by then, and I was in terrible shape. Like I was, and Brian knew me in first year. I was, I think I was nearly 300 pounds and like couldn't sprint. Like I was not in good shape. So it was, I was looking for that some full contact sport where I could throw that weight around and get back to the glory days of rugby. But more so than that, it was that Harry Potter fandom.
Yeah, thinking back to first year, like looking back at pictures now and seeing like what you look like now. Obviously, like you've lost a little bit more weight with boxing going on, trying to cut, but like it's crazy. Like I didn't even think over the years like notice the transformation. That you posted some picture of you from like years ago, and I was like, oh my god, that's the same person. Like it's nuts. Like you've just slowly like lost weight and leaned up and put on muscle. It's nuts. Like it's
Thanks,
crazy.
man. It's been a long time, but it's been I think it's been fairly consistent.
Yeah.
And that you're right. It's gotten a lot quicker now that if I don't lose the weight, I'm going to be fighting guys in super heavyweight. So the motivation has only gotten more in recent days. But yeah, it was a long 4 years and a lot of training. But I'm happy with where I am now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, right on. I was just gonna say, like, I think given that like you guys both have the experience of like the more like physical side, I think like because I know personally like my sport was soccer growing up. I played it really competitively, and Brian was saying like he didn't really have any like contact sport experience either. Like we wanted to get like guys that had like with like sort of hockey and rugby to kind of talk about like I guess like the tackling side of Quidditch, and particularly I know Calder, you wrote I read your article about like the 2-arm tackling and the rules around that. So I just want to get you guys kind of your perspective on like, well, obviously you wrote the article, but like for our viewers, like what are your thoughts on like 2-arm tackling with the MLQ versus the 1-arm that we have currently in QC, and kind of go from there.
Yeah, I'd like to, because I mean, anyone, I could fill your whole podcast time slot with talk about 2-arm tackling. I kind of want to hear from Matt first, just to get a perspective on someone who's new. Matt, remind me, are you a quaffle player or a beater?
I'm a quaffle player. I literally have only put on a green headband in my life.
Okay, cool. So in your experience, because I'll say my thing, but from what you've seen as a guy who wasn't coming from necessarily a tackling based sport, what do you think? How have you found one?
Yeah,
and playing like probably the most tackling physicality oriented position in the game.
Yeah.
What did you think of it after this season?
Yeah, so that was really interesting for me because like you said, I've never played a tackling sport. I was always very much encouraged to stay away from football and rugby, and the only reason I never played football in high school was that it was in 100% direct contradiction to the volleyball schedule.
Right.
So I might have tried it out. I even went to a tryout for football, ran a couple people over, and the poor coaches wanted me so badly, but I had to play volleyball. It was my sport,
Yeah.
But that was the extent of my experience with tackling. So just coming off of hockey and volleyball, I had no idea how to throw a tackle, man. Like I had no idea how to really do that. So I don't know, it wasn't too jarring because I imagine with people who do 2-arm tackling sports, I imagine the transition's very jarring. But for me, it was just learn it from the ground up, right, with the 1-arm tackling. But yeah, I mean, the physicality of it though didn't feel like weird at all. it honestly felt very refreshing to just get to run over some people, because I'm a very big guy and I'm very, very powerful, but I'm constantly holding back because in a lot of like most sports I just can't run into people like that. Even in my hockey days, like my favorite part about hockey was that I could just toss people around, and it wasn't because I was just out there to hit people. I went into intensive camps to improve my skating. So at one point, in my hockey career at my peak, I was the fastest and largest guy on the ice, which meant I was going to beat you to the puck and then throw you into the boards anyway, just because I felt like it. And that's what I lived for. I lived for dominating my opponents physically. That was my favorite part of the game. It was outplaying, outworking, and really just outfighting my opponents. And so transferring into Quidditch, now there's just an added element where instead of just throwing a shoulder at somebody, now I'm actually going to wrap up and commit and take them down, right?
Yeah.
So it's really fun though.
Yeah, it is fun, and for that style of contact, like sort of the hockey style of contact, one arm wrapping is, it makes sense.
Yeah,
because like I've always been adamant that I think one arm wrapping is the absolute dumbest thing to happen to Quidditch.
It's rough, right? Because the thing with hockey is that you're never wrapping up anybody, and the puck's always loose. Like whatever you're playing with, the object, which is the puck in hockey, it's always loose. It's bouncing all over the place. So if you full commit and the puck goes flying, like you need to be, you're not fully committed to like flying into the ground whenever you make a hit. So if you're going to hit a guy and the puck gets thrown away, you can turn immediately and just start going. But the thing is with Quidditch, right? It kills the pace of the game when you have to stop what you're doing and like fully commit to a tackle. And if they get rid of the ball, then you're just kind of stuck behind the play, even worse than you would be in hockey.
So you would argue for no wrapping at all and just sort of body checking style.
But the problem with that though is that hockey we're wearing equipment. And that's what protects us from body checking each other all over the place. And so in Quidditch, if you were to just throw a shoulder check at somebody when you both went to pick up the quaffing, just shoulder check somebody, you're going to lay them out, you're going to crush them. So like it's really a balance. Like, do we want to have a faster paced sport or do we want to have a safer sport? And personally, I like being able to play Quidditch and not have to worry about injuring people when I hit them. Because I'm playing with, say for example, like not to say I'll ever catch Yap. I'll never catch Yap. But if I did, and I can hit Yap, who's like a quarter of my weight, maybe like she's probably half my weight, half my size, right? Like I'm a giant. Yap is just a normal sized person, and I wouldn't want to run her over and think, oh my god, I just broke her arm or something. But the way that the Quidditch tackling works, she can take that tackle from me any day, get up, laugh at me, and then hit me. And that's what I love about Quidditch. It's a lot more open, and with Quidditch, you have everybody. It's accessible to everybody because no one's in mortal danger every time there's contact. But if we were to go to like a no wrapping or even a two-arm tackling system, I mean, I'm sure two-arm tackling, it could be fine, depending how it's implemented, right? I don't have any experience with two-arm tackling sport. But if we could just run around throwing shoulders, people would be getting injured even more than they are now, like you would not believe. And I'm very confident in that.
I think that's a really interesting perspective coming from your sports background, and that speed versus safety is a really good point.
Yeah.
Anyone who's talked to me at a Quidditch event for more than 20 minutes knows that I'm saying we need two-arm tackling, and we did it yesterday.
Yeah, you want speed for sure.
Well, it's safety, really, is two-arm tackling, and it's a little counterintuitive, but
is that right?
Yeah,
I'd say control. Control's a good word.
Yeah, and which control begets safety. Because right now, if I'm, and if I'm making a defensive tackle, think about when you're lining up, you're squaring up to somebody. The only way that that tackle is going to go to the ground and is going to be a clean tackle, it's like the first thing you learn in rugby is when you take someone to the ground, you go to the ground with them. You guide them to the ground. Otherwise, it's, most cases when that doesn't happen, it's a dump tackle and you'll get put in the sin bin for it.
Yeah.
But if I'm playing Quidditch and I can only wrap with one arm, then the likelihood of that person spinning out or deking around me is so much higher that my only option to get that person to the ground is to just be bigger and moving faster than them and to blow them up and to use like my actual force of my weight and my velocity to
your momentum.
Yeah.
Literally by definition.
I'm a biologist. I quit taking physics after.
Yeah, you literally just describe momentum, force and velocity.
Yeah, so I have to use my momentum to knock them down.
Yeah.
Whereas if I can tackle with two arms, then that frees me up to. Cause the way that the formula for a rugby tackle is you first of all play as low as you can. Like and I know you aim our tackles sort of around the gut. Anything above the waist in rugby is not a very good tackle. And even then, when I'm playing rugby, I'm aiming my shoulder into thighs.
Yeah.
And you get your shoulder into the thigh, you get your arm, one arm sort of wrapped up high, maybe around the small of their back, and one arm around their knees, and you buckle their knees, and you take them to the ground. And, that's kind of like textbook how I learned it. It doesn't always work like that. And I mean, you get blown up and you blow guys up all the time. Yeah. But in terms of a safe tackle, that's what you have. And now, okay, so we can only use one arm now. We can either buckle the person at the knees and have nothing to stop, don't have that second arm to slow them down, right? Before their head hits the ground. Or you wrap high, all of a sudden you're in contact like this, and if they take, too many steps too fast in one direction, they're going to blow out your shoulder every time.
Yep. I felt Mitchell did that to me.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
Mitchell.
And I don't know, maybe, Brian played longer than I did in MLQ this summer.
Yeah.
But I was fortunate enough to make it. I played for the Toronto Raiders. For the viewers who don't know, I played for the Raiders for about a third of the season, and then I got a job offer that I couldn't refuse up here in just a little bit north of Kingston. I submitted, and for those of you that don't know, MLQ is very strict about their radius rules. Depending on where you live, you have to play for a certain team. And I submitted an appeal and requested to still be allowed to play for the Raiders, and MLQ denied it. So I had to leave the team before any of our major games, which was a real bummer. But I got to play. I was really thankful to get to play a scrimmage against the Ottawa Black Bears that had live two-arm tackling in Quidditch, and it was phenomenal. The game felt, and I mean, this is probably just a long, an old rugby player talking, but the game felt so much more natural playing with two-arm tackles, and just that small change really felt safer, to be honest.
Yeah. And so for my perspective, it felt a lot safer. Because that's a huge thing for me. I've been very frustrated learning the sport by two major things. One is I'm a big dude. My job is to go out there and kill the other big dudes, but it's hard. It's so hard to even find your opportunities. And I've been getting very frustrated that no matter it takes so much to line up perfectly for me to even make contact with someone and not get carded,
Yeah.
And another thing is that the game is playing so slowly, I think, because of that I think I have too much time to think when I'm walking up at the point and I have the quaffle and I'm the quaffle carrier going in offensively as the keeper, right? I have too much time to think about what's going on. And the enemy has too much time, the other team has too much time to think about how they're setting up their defense, and I think it's just way too slow. And I personally, as a very strategic guy, I get in my head a bit too much, right? And I'm looking around and I don't see my wing chasers, and if my wing chasers aren't moving, I have no one to throw it to. All of a sudden, boom, I'm getting tackled because it's so slow. All of a sudden, boom, I'm on my ass. So I think the game would really benefit a lot more from a faster pacing. So any rule changes that would make the game faster, I would definitely welcome. And if you don't think that two-arm tackling would impact the safety at all, I would be all for it.
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
I was just gonna say with the MLQ, because I played with the Blackbirds in I think the best decision, because I also struggled in my first year with one-arm tackling. I think the best decision I made was to go to MLQ. The first year I played, they didn't have the two-arm tackling, but they the Americans are so much better, I think, at tackling than Canadians just in general. But then in my second year when I played, like learning to tackle with the two arms, it dramatically improved my ability to tackle with one arm. Like I was wishing that I could tackle with two, obviously, but like just learning how to like line up a hit with like two arms, I think like it helped me because like I said, I didn't come from like a contact sport background, so I think even just having the ability to like learn like just two arm tackling with a broom and learning how to like position the broom and like have that other arm, but like you're not like, I think one of the big things that people are afraid of is that people are just gonna run around like hailing people with the broom, and like it's like that's it, like it's not true. Like you're not, like no one's gonna do that, but I think that's like one of the biggest like concerns. So like to build off of your point, like Matt, like I think personally, like I would 100% recommend playing like in MLQ like when things get back to normal, because it, like for me personally, it helped drastically. But yeah, I just wanted to like throw that in there.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think to sort of speak to both of those points, that is a major concern with two-arm tackling, is it does slow down the game. But I think you can have fast gameplay in bursts that are broken up by tackles. This is, again, like think of a rugby game, a 15s rugby game, where as soon as the tackle is made, like you've got the ruck, which is obviously its whole, it's just its own, little bed of chaos.
Mm-hmm.
But once a tackle is made, there's a solid, second and a half where both teams are setting up for the next offensive push. And in that sense, the game slows down a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like hockey or basketball, where as soon as there's a turnover, or I don't know what happens in those sports. I've never played them.
Basketball is the same way. When there's a turnover, you're going to want to set up your offense, and then once it breaks, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I find the shot clock is a huge one in basketball, because some people would just juggle the ball around and always sit at the point. And
I think that's a better cure for game speed in Quidditch.
Yeah.
Like I think you can have two-arm tackling and a shot clock, and maybe the shot clock resets when a tackle's brought to the ground.
You know what's crazy? It's like I've never even thought about that, but just mentioning a shot clock in basketball, that's how they control the pacing. I just thought about a shot clock in Quidditch, and I just love the idea already. I don't know how I feel about it because it gives like a huge defensive advantage, right? Because if you've got BS and a shot clock, like it could be really like with the best teams. If you have BS and a shot clock, like you're gonna dominate, right, on the defense. But at the same time, that's only in my like from what I've seen that will probably only happen at the highest levels of Quidditch. But in lower level games, like it's not gonna affect much. Like offensive drives can get very chaotic either way. And I don't know. I just like the idea of a shot clock to speed up the pace of the game.
So real quickly, to just kind of throw this thing in there. So MLQ introduced two-arm tackling last year. Obviously, I think they did it the previous year with some of the like consolation, all-star kind of games for the teams that were eliminated, and they put it in place officially this past year. However, there was other, like I think 2 other major changes that happened on the quaffle side. So I can't remember the exact dimensions just off the top of my head, but the hoops, the side hoops, were pushed out another, I think it was like another 18 like inches or so on either side. So it pushed it and spread it a little bit further, so making it harder to defend. So that was a big thing. But the other thing was in regular league play, you can tap in on any hoop, right? No problem. MLQ, what they introduced was, I at the beginning, I think so many people screwed up because they kept making this mistake, but they put in a rule in which you can only tap in on the middle hoop. So it took away a lot of zone defenses that relied on you just kind of setting up in front of a hoop or kind of like staying stationary, because if a beater came in from the side and tipped that person out, that person has to go to the middle, tag back in, and then try to get back in position. And that opens up a whole lane that rather pass, a good like tap beat out, or something else really opens up that offense. And like it was a really good balance of let's improve safety with the two-arm tackling, but at the same time we're gonna change it so that we actually end up like keeping the pace of play rather fast. And it was a really brilliant kind of change, but it's like if you watch it, you can see it just kind of work its own magic in the whole strategy of it.
You're kind of blowing my mind right now. We played the current iteration of like the worldwide game, right? Like, because I'm seeing all these problems as a newcomer. Like, a lot of it's going to be inexperience, right? And you just adapt to it. But like, just because you can adapt to it doesn't mean the game doesn't need to improve, right? Like,
Yeah.
so much stuff to learn. But like, just thinking about spreading out the hoops a bit more while implementing a shot clock, just incredible,
Yeah.
right? Because a shot clock would favor the defense way too highly, especially if you have BS.
Yeah.
But if you have wider hoops so that it's like harder to defend, then that kind of balances out already. And now you have a faster paced game with no like real disadvantage to the game balance from what it sounds. Just in theory, just as we're talking about it. So I'd love to see that, like, to test that out, you know?
So I think my favorite term that I've heard from like there's Ethan Sturm, who was I can't remember exactly, he's like the commissioner, or like he's in like the kind of head executive of MLQ, and he's an assistant coach for the Team US. But he uses the term meta a lot, which I think
I
describes
use the term meta constantly,
like
because
the whole
I'm a
meta
video
thing
game
of
player,
how
but-
this kind of works. And like Calder, Gabe, like you obviously, we've been playing for a lot longer, and like you can kind of see how the game has changed over the last couple of years, because you go from like, hey, here big guy, go and run, and like beaters try and clear up some chaos. Then it was like beaters focusing on grabbing BS, and then it was a lot more like pushing toward passing a little bit, and now it's like controlling BS and opening lanes. Like there's a lot of kind of small changes that happen. Like the beater side, you really see it, and like I have no idea. That's not my forte.
I'm way too dumb to be a beater.
Beater, I think the beater meta is very interesting, as the strategies are constantly changing throughout the match depending on who is in. Because I find beaters all have different goals. Like, from what I've observed, every beater goes out there with a different idea of what they want to accomplish when they're on the field. And so some of them will work really well in pairs with a unified goal. Sometimes you'll have a beater who wants to go super aggressive, and then the other one plays super defensive while they're on at the same time. So it's really interesting. This is still a very small sport, right? It's not super well known year round. Like I tell everybody, you know, like I play Quidditch, and they're like, "What the hell is Quidditch?" You know? And so like I feel like the strategies are constantly going to be evolving, because we don't have like, in general, we don't have like any like top teams in a professional league to basically crack down and show us all the best strategies, right? And especially with it being a very active game, like that's always going to be changing.
Hey, come out to Team Canada. Team Canada always welcomes.
Yeah, and the term meta is really interesting, because I'm used to seeing it being used in a video game sense, right? Because a video game will have patch updates where they'll buff a character, nerf a character, change a game mode a little bit, and that'll affect how the game's played. And really, in real life sports like hockey, the hockey meta doesn't change that frequently or that fast, because you know, you don't just like, okay, new patch, Char can skate fast now. Then you're like, what the hell? Now Zdeno Chara is the most broken character in the sport.
Yeah.
But that doesn't really happen in real life sports. But the strategies and all the tactics used in this sport, because it's such a young sport and it's so undeveloped, they're constantly changing. And that's to hear from you guys.
That's exactly it. It feels like Quidditch is growing up. You know, I mean, this is a belief that I've held for a while, is that, you know, Quidditch kind of needs to go through all these, you know, weird things, and we need to have, you know, discussions like this one. Yeah, exactly. And I'm, you know, to kind of circle back to the tackling idea of it, you know, there was a time when, you know, Quidditch was played on wooden brooms with multicolored capes. Like, and looking back, like, that's just absolutely ridiculous. It's needlessly dangerous. And I'm fairly confident that in, you know, 10 years, 5 years, 10 years time, we're going to look back on one-arm tackling the same way, as something that it needed to happen so we could learn the lesson, but it's needlessly dangerous.
I don't know if it'll be as dumb as capes, man, but I'll definitely look back and be like, yeah, I remember that was like, we had that when I first started, and it was super annoying, you know?
Yeah.
And the mode, no capes.
No capes.
But you look at like video, because like not a lot of huge like primary like national level sports have really emerged in the last few years that like I can think of off the top of my head, that like everybody's playing this sport, you know. But you look at like video games is a great example. Like esports is a huge great example. Like you look at like Overwatch with Overwatch League, and they come out with this game, and they have this huge like professional league, and they're playing at the highest levels, and they have super diverse metas and they change it from each patch, right? But if you look back 3 years, 4 years ago, like to the launch of the game, it's almost unrecognizable to its current iteration. Yeah, all the same elements are there. It looks kind of similar, but how the game functionally plays compared to 2016 and 2020, it's two completely different games. And I think Quidditch is gonna, like, as a sport, is also gonna go through that evolution until it reaches, a more optimal area. And it's the same with all major league sports. If you look at the NHL still changes rules to hockey to make the game either safer or enjoyable. The 3-on-3 overtime is one of my favorite changes I've ever seen. Like in my lifetime, it's probably my favorite change to the entire league. And so all sports are going to be doing that. And, Quidditch can do that as well until it gets to the point where, wow, this is an amazing sport. Everybody's going to be like, okay, this is cool. Let's try it out. And I don't know how it's going to grow in popularity because it's pretty niche, I'll be honest. Like, I only heard about it because 2 girls on some street corner were yelling at me. So, I don't know. I'm very interested to see how the sport grows over the next few years as I play it, and I definitely want to see it grow because it's really interesting. It has so much potential.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I don't know if you guys have any other things you want to throw in there, or if you guys want to move on. We have the game at the end here, but if anything else you want to add?
Don't make me draft a team. I don't know anybody yet. Is there a Bargain Queens team I can get?
Honestly, you probably could.
Yeah, there's a couple.
I don't know if I want them.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll move into that segment then. So we try to finish up every every episode of the podcast with we call it the chill vibes only segment. So for reference, for those that don't know, that was the whole Ottawa Otters theme of the chill vibes only. So that's what we're naming the segment, and we have 2 components to it. So the first part is called the QC Money Game. So it's inspired by MLQ's recent post about where they had a list of players or their athletes, and they kind of associated a certain money value to each player within that sort of setup there. And then they proposed a game. So they had $18, and you're going to create 1 line of in-game quaffle play. So assuming the game's already started, so it's not a broom situation, and there's no snitch on pitch. And yeah, so you have $18. Gender rules apply, and you have to create a team. So we'll do that one, and then we'll kind of hop into maybe 1 or 2 questions at the end there. So I don't know if you guys had a chance to do that or not, but
I did mine beforehand. Yeah, I've got both my lines set.
$18, Matt.
$18.
Yeah.
Calder, go ahead.
I'll go first. I forgot to write how much people are worth beside their name, but I did the math, and I've got $18 worth of people on this line.
I'll be counting.
All right. Tell me if I've messed up.
Yeah, that's my job.
First, the first name I look for on that, I got Jeremy Burrows-Belka on there, just because you can't pass him up. Too good of a driver, too good of an overall player to pass up.
Leading scorer.
Sorry?
Leading scorer for QC Regionals.
Yeah, exactly. And to supplement that, the other 2 chasers I picked were Michael Beta, because I don't know if it's still underrated because I've heard a lot of people saying it now, but Michael Beta's ability to get behind the hoops and catch and dunk every time is just bananas.
Friend of the show, Michael Beta.
Yeah, he was on here before. Was he the last?
Yeah, he was just on.
Right. Yeah, so I definitely wanted him, and then I picked Felicia Costa to go out there as well, as a good overall player, and someone who can bring some more Jeremy Burrows-Belka and Michael Beta is a very offensive combination. And I think Felicia's got a lot of defensive prowess in her that would add, sort of round out that chaser line. And I paired that chaser line, and I kind of broke the rules here. But I put Lydia Reed in at keeper.
I'll allow it. I'll allow it.
There, but I put her in at keeper. I thought Lydia was just an absolute steal. And as a keeper, one of a few people who has been able to fully tackle me to the ground, and I think kind of an obvious choice with that group in terms of in terms of rounding out the defense. Beaters, I picked Zach McDonald for the same reason I picked Jeremy. How can you not? And I paired him with this up-and-coming beater that, I think has a lot of talent. Her name's Summer Schweitzer. You might not have heard of her.
I had a feeling, Calder, that you were going to pick your sister.
Yeah.
I don't know do you mean Rachel? Do you know about Rachel?
I don't know about Rachel.
Oh, I'll tell you in a second. It's a great story.
For those of you watching who don't know, Summer's my sister.
Yep.
Shout out, and I just don't think she would have forgiven me if I didn't pick her. I told her, she's really, really clever, and she's got that sort of beater mentality. And I didn't get to see her play a whole lot. When the times that I did, I was impressed. But I told her that when she told me that she'd been picked as a beater, I told her, that means they think you're smart, and you got to prove them right. And I think she has been, based on what I've heard from other people and the little that I've seen myself. So that was another, pretty obvious choice.
I'm running out of money, and I don't know enough females in this league, if I'm being honest. I'm picking up Summer because I know you, and you're cheap, bro. I need females. But listen, my list is going to be pretty bad because I don't know enough people, right? But right now, so far, I'm just filling out this lineup, right? I've got Spencer Van Milligan. I played one game against him. Two actually, in Montreal. It was my first ever tournament, and at one point we collided. I went to make a tackle, but the fact is, I didn't have enough momentum, and he's my size but heavier. So there's no way
shook that day.
You could have taken him down with a second arm.
True, I would have. But I hit this guy, and the ground just shook. And one, I was like, we're the two coolest big dudes here for making this hit, because we just hit, and it's just boom, and it was just the ground was shaking. I'm like, are you summoning thunder? I called him Thor, for those of you who don't know. I call him Thor. I see him, I'm like, hey, what's up, Thor? But he's just a really good keeper, really great physical athlete. I don't know him very well personally, but I was like, I like this guy. I picked up Alex Pham and Alex Crawley because, oh my god, they're both here. I want them both, please. I've played many shifts with Alex Pham, and if I ever need to throw behind the hoops, beside the hoops, if I ever need to count on someone in any game, I know I can count on Alex Pham. I've never played a game with Alex Pham and gone, he hasn't been open very much lately. This dude is always open. And he's so fast, and his hands are perfect. He's never dropped a catch, man. Alex Pham is super...
He's the next coming of Michael Beta, in my opinion.
He's second year university. This was his rookie year, if I'm not mistaken. Right, Gabe?
Yeah, it's rookie year.
And oh my god, I can't even believe how good this dude is.
Yeah, he's got really good potential for sure.
Yeah, by 2 years later, you're not even gonna believe this guy has only been playing for 3 years. He's amazing. Alex Crawley, this guy can do anything. I've seen him play just every position, and I've seen him play to a high degree. He's just super trustworthy, and just a super great athlete. And if you think there's no way he makes the shot, no way he makes this pass, how is he running through all these people? He's just going to do it. I love that guy. I have the scariest beater core I've ever seen on paper, and I loved seeing it in game. It's Ethan Peters and Jimmy Condon on the same beater line. I don't know what's scarier. The fact that, Jimmy could just walk up to you and wind up, or the fact that you could be anywhere on the field, and if you don't know where Ethan Peters is, you are in critical danger of getting face beat from across the field.
Ethan, I'll say that the Guelph tournament, when I was playing for Royal City this past semester, Ethan Peters made me look like a fool, at least twice. The guy is, I don't know him personally, but on the pitch, he is sneaky. There was at least twice where I thought there were no bludgers, and everyone knows that I tunnel vision in that situation, and stupid in the best of days, but he would just be sitting there with a bludger behind his back or something, and he got me every time.
The thing about getting to knowing Ethan is that you can't like have someone tell any of his stories like about him or like hear about what he's like from someone. You have to meet him, because if you hear about Ethan Peters, what he's actually like as a person, from anyone else, you won't believe them. But if you hear any story that's ever come out of Ethan Peters' mouth, no matter how impossible that story has to be, you will know with certainty that it is true. Ethan is the most unique individual that I've ever spoken with in my life. I hope I get to see more of him next year. Like I don't know what he's doing school wise, like if he's gonna be in Kingston, but I just want to see the dude when I can. He's so interesting. But at the Guelph tournament there, which was my last tournament of my rookie season, when we played Guelph in the finals, I was starting to push up the left side of the pitch, and Ethan Peters walked up to me and I went, mouth guarded. I'm like, please don't do it. I looked at him. He's just looking. He's dead focused, right? Because he's such a silly guy, but he's dead focused on the game. I looked at him like, don't do it, don't do it. And then out of nowhere, Jimmy comes out, like practically hops over my shoulder, like he was just hiding behind me, and then boom, just whacks Ethan, and I'm like, holy crap, we beat Ethan. We go. And it was one of my favorite moments from that past tournament there, just bamboozling Ethan. But he's such an interesting guy, and when he's in the game and he's dialed in, he's like a different person. And he's just such a phenomenal player. Yeah. And then I don't know enough females. I don't know if I have enough money. I'll pick up Lydia too. She's really good, super good, well-rounded. Yeah. And I picked up Summer because she's cheap. Don't tell her. Is she gonna watch this? She's gonna watch.
Oh, she will. She knows I'm here. She'll watch it. Hey, Summer.
Hey, Summer. No, but the Rachel thing. When I first got to Queens, there, my friends made me a Tinder account, and I was like, sure, let's go through it, right? I was going through Tinder for a while, and then I came across this one account with the name Rachel, and I was scrolling through it, and this is only like a month after moving, so I just met your sister. I'm like, wait, this is Summer. Who the hell is Rachel?
Wait, what?
Yeah, and so I guess I don't know what it was, but for some reason her account had been banned or whatever. I don't know what she did. I don't think she did anything, though. It was just a weird thing where she couldn't access her account. So she was borrowing her friend's account, but the name's imprinted by default.
Oh.
Based on your like email or Facebook or whatever. So the Quidditch rookies, specifically being like, there's a trio of Quidditch rookies at Queens that are all engineering students. It's me, Morgan McPhee, and Kelly Godkin. We hang out a lot, and I not so much Kelly, but Morgan and I are kind of shitheads, and so every time we see Summer, we're like, "What's up, Rachel?" And that's just kind of been the thing. So next time you see your sister, preferably before she sees the podcast, call her Rachel.
You know what? For random stuff through Quidditch, you get some weird nicknames. Like,
you do get weird nicknames.
I'm looking forward to my weird nicknames because my one of my clubs that I ran. If you guys have ever heard Reach for the Top, I was in like basically like the trivia team.
I played Reach for the Top.
Yeah. We were the Northern Ontario champions, and then we went to provincials, but I didn't go because it was like $300, and I was like, no.
We only made it once, and
but we made it. Yeah, we made it in my grade 12 year, and I decided not to go, which was kind of a blow because I was a co-captain.
Yeah.
So like I think we finished like top of the bottom third there, but anyway, my nickname on that team and my hockey team was Ramen.
Nice.
Because of my hair. It's never been anywhere near this long, but at like long lengths for what it was before, it would look like ramen noodles.
Oh yeah.
And then I had some interesting names playing volleyball as well, but I'm really curious to see what I get playing Quidditch.
Give it time, Simon will come.
Hey Brian.
Yep.
Does anyone other than you still call you, or does anyone other than me still call you Mr. Go-Go Gadget?
No, I think it's exclusively you.
Oh, but I really wanted that one to catch on.
I know. I enjoy that one. So that one's good. I have Mississauga because I filled out a Google form wrong for a fantasy tournament, and I got picked randomly as Mississauga, and they're like, who is this person? And I think I got picked in like the third last round. And they're like, I think it was Alex Sugar he picked me and was like, I think I heard that you had signed up, and I didn't see you on the list, so I just picked Mississauga. So it worked out. He's like, it was the best steal of the draft. And I was like, okay.
like a loot box.
Yeah. Don't know what you're
Now,
gonna
one
get.
thing I'm interested for all your guys' teams. Like, what are the houses like? Do you guys sort your team into houses like Queens does?
No, not like Hogwarts
No?
houses.
Yeah. We
No.
okay.
No,
So
I think
Queens.
that's just a Queens thing from what
So-
I
Yeah.
understand.
So, James, like, effectively, so James Hoban, he retired at the end of the season because he just didn't have time to come up to anything. And Matt Rogers is graduating this year. He's going to be retired as well, which means that in the fall, when we do tryouts, I am going to be the only active member of Hufflepuff. There's like 9, 10 Slytherins, like, 10 Gryffindors, like 6, 7 Ravenclaws, and I'm just going to be the only person in Hufflepuff that plays the
Up and
sport.
coming house.
Forget about
No, that's what I'm saying. So Morgan, one of my fellow rookies, like in engineering, he's going to be taking over as president for Lydia next year, and Kelly is gonna take over as vice president, and I'm doing nothing. I ran for captain because I thought, oh my god, wouldn't it be hilarious if this second year, who has like no experience with the sport, ended up as captain. Thank God, Alex Crawley and Wills ran for co-captain. I actually voted against myself for them, but yeah, I'm looking forward to next year. As the only active member of Hufflepuff, I'm going to try and take all of the rookies. We're gonna have to do some recruiting next year because we're losing a lot of fourth years this year. So I'm looking forward to just abducting as many people into my house as I can, and then introducing them to national what was it, bronze medalist or regional bronze medalist, national champion Davis
Wong. Davis Wong.
It's
Love
my-
that guy.
It's my favorite thing because every time he shows up, like Eric just goes, "Ladies and gentlemen," what was it, like 2-time national bronze or
One-time national
one-time
champion, 2-time practicer.
Yeah.
3-time medalist Davis Wong.
Yeah, it was like 2-time regional bronze medalist, 1-time national gold like champion Davis Wong, and he comes in. I don't know.
He's a funny
looking
dude.
forward.
Davis.
What was interesting is my induction, right? I didn't know Davis as a person because I just moved to Kingston, right? And I'd never seen him before, and he was at my induction into Hufflepuff. I can't share any details. It's strictly for the house, but he was wearing like a Knights Templar outfit. Like he had like a full like helmet, right, with the big cross over it and the visor, so you could see out of it. And he had like a white like bedsheet cape, and I can't remember what he had. I think it was like a cane or something. And he just didn't say a word, and he just followed us around. He just followed us around the house the whole night, and he never said a word.
Seems
I
like a
didn't
Davis
actually-
thing to do.
Yeah, but like no one told us it was him. And then I met him for the first time like a week later. And he already knew everybody, but not a single person knew who he was, because he just followed us around in his knight's costume.
So man, I'll leave you with this before I give my my random idea team for that money game. But my nickname from Team Canada this past year is Truck Daddy, and
Is what, Daddy?
Truck Daddy. And if you can get something that tops that, congratulations to you, sir, because that was a weird one to make stick.
I don't know. I mean, I'm a very, how do I put it? I'm a very all over the place person. The way I like to describe both myself, like in my action and my personality, is organized chaos. So, I mean, at the very least, I think I definitely have the potential to overcome your nickname. It's just about...
Can't wait.
It's
Can't
all
wait,
about
buddy.
the people around me if they're clever enough.
Yeah.
Because I could probably give you a better name than Truck Daddy, but I don't know.
We'll see.
I don't know how
That's tough.
crazy...
That's a tall order.
I don't know if enough people around me are crazy enough to top that, you know?
Having known Brian for 5 years, I think Truck Daddy is the perfect nickname for him.
Yeah.
I think that encapsulates his personality very well. All
Um,
right, hit us. You said
I'll hit you with my
team
list.
Yeah.
So I've done 2 of these so far. So just for the record, for those keeping track at home, my first list that I came up with on the fly was I made a team, $18, followed gender rules. It also was only picked because it spelled out Brian M. So I spelled out players with my name. And then last podcast I did the full Seeker lineup. So I did I think it was like $21. We gave like $3 to get a Seeker, but I basically made an entire line of people that every single person can play Seeker if need be. So that was interesting. This theme of the day, I've gone with tall and small. So I've intentionally picked 3 of the tallest people at their positions and 3 of the smaller people at their positions.
This is for
the money game.
This is for MLQ?
Or for whatever, like the Canada people. So I went Wyatt Vershear from out west. For keeper, he's like 6'3", 6'4".
That's like short, bro. I'm like just under the 6'5" mark.
Yeah,
so
well, you're an exception.
I'm really competitive about it. I'm like, don't let anybody be taller than me. I want to be the tallest keeper.
Next up, I think we got John Keats at Chaser for 3. He's a pretty lanky boy. We have, I think I went with Lydia Reed more on the end that she's one of the taller females that I can get. And she's honestly just a great pick all the way around. Then I went for the little, I don't want to say Energizer Bunny, but like the guy's small, but he packs a punch in Cameron Powers. Great value pick, really honestly underrated player across the league. And then I went with Jonathan Gola, the true lank master himself at 6'7", 6'8", whatever. He keeps growing. I don't know what it is. And Nathan Ross from out west, who solid player, gets overlooked a lot. But yeah, tall and small, I'd love to see it. So next Nationals.
Cool.
Looking forward to it.
That'll be the next Merc team.
Yep. So sorry.
Does everybody here? Because we're all pretty like big dudes, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who here is like your favorite small dude on your own team?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Yeah, because I know mine right away. For anybody, if anybody doesn't know him, like Mo Wonka.
Oh yeah.
I have never had more natural synergy playing a contact sport than I did with this guy. It was incredible. I loved partnering up with him for drills and practice, and I remember my first ever tournament. It was like my first shift ever, and I threw a quaffle out to Mo on a break, and he just started taking off down the field because he's a very fast runner. And their keeper came up the same time and met him, and the keeper, Mo, didn't even flinch. The keeper walked up to hit Mo, and Mo just ran him over. And the best part about this story is that this keeper was only like 3 inches shorter than me and about the same build. So like this dude was easily twice Mo's size, both in height and weight, and Mo just ran him over, ran up to the hoop, and just put it in. I couldn't even believe it.
Calder, you got someone from Royal City or Guelph that you can think of?
Oh yeah, the obvious choice. I mean, I don't want to call anybody short, but everybody looks short to me.
I feel you, brother.
But I would pick Aiden Gould.
You stole my pick. You stole my pick.
Yeah, Aiden Gould. If you've ever the man is absolutely built.
Yeah.
He's a savage beater, and he's the mastermind behind Order 66.
Yeah.
So there's just nothing better that you cannot get a better player.
You know what? And in a small package, there is so much snarl and so much like there's a lot of video of him like when you think typical enforcer in any sport, you think big guy ready to like lay down the law. Aiden is the complete polar opposite. He plays the non-physical kind of position as a beater, and he's a small guy, but he comes in and he will lay down the law. You mess with his team, expect a face beat. You're being annoying, face beat.
But you know what? He can back it up. I don't care to tell the story, and there was no ill will behind it. But I was punched in the face once by Aiden Gould, and my jaw still clicks when I chew. So there's a lot of snarl in him. I think is the good way to put it. But man, he can back it up.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Contact sports, like it's very easy for us as big dudes to come in and dominate contact sports, but the people who have the most respect for me just coming in is those people who are very clearly in the most danger of getting absolutely trucked if somebody does manage to squeak a hit in on them. They just really impress me. Small athletes in contact sports. If Mitch Marner probably easily my favorite current NHL player. You know, I just thought I'd give a little love. As the tall folk, I think we need to extend that branch. You know, give a little love to the people who deserve the love more than us.
Not the size of the player; it's the size of the heart.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. I think we'll just wrap with one last quick question here. But we like from our list of questions. Like I think we touched on a lot of them that are on there. But if there was one place in Canada that you would like to see Quidditch grow to, whether it be a community team or like in a different university, where do you want to see a team?
I think, and it kind of used to be there with Fleming, but I'd really like to see. I'd like to see a Quidditch team out of rural Ontario with the same vigor that the Lindsay Griffins rugby team has, because that's a group of that, like when I was playing with, that's a group of guys that are absolute best friends and would honestly like there's no one-on-one fights in rugby, especially not with the Lindsay Griffins, because every tussle would be a bench clear because everyone's got each other's backs, and I think that would be as someone who's a fan of the physical aspect of it, that would be a hard-hitting, dominant team. So I'd want to see it come out of, hometown represent the Kawartha Lakes, Muskoka part of Ontario.
Oh, that's such a beautiful answer. Mine's so much more devious. I want to see Laurentian University start a Quidditch team because I already know some people who would play for them, and I want to just run over my friends. I have friends who go to Laurentian here in Sudbury, and I just want to absolutely put them into the dirt and show them why Queens is better. But if I'm being honest, I don't really want this to grow to any one specific place. But what I do really want to see is I want to see it hit small towns and smaller areas, like small university towns like Sudbury. If you get universities like Laurentian and Sudbury,
Trent.
Trent, like smaller universities all over the country, if you get more small universities playing this sport, then the big universities are going to pick up on it. And even if the big universities like Queens, Guelph, we all do it, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to trickle down. Because a lot of smaller universities are going to be like, what the hell? We have to fight these guys? Like, why would we pick up this sport? But if you start from the bottom up, if you start with the small universities and build that program up, I feel like we could actually turn this sport into a huge national thing.
It started to do that with, and I don't know anything beyond what I saw from the Quidditch team, but was Lionel Grew not a smaller university that was there for a season or two?
They were like, I don't know exactly how it works, but they're out from Montreal. They're almost kind of like University de Montreal. I don't know them, like the whole program well enough, but I think that was like a college, like a 2-year kind of college,
right?
But like associated with University de Montreal, and that's where they had like almost a feeder team there, and they're like, let's make it a real team, and they were there for a year. Loved the jerseys, missed them, but I don't know what kind of happened there.
I remember playing against them. I remember them being cool dudes on the pitch.
Yeah, they were fun. One time.
Yeah. One thing that does concern me for the growth of the sport in general is accessibility. Like for example, I would love nothing more than to see a Quidditch team at Laurentian University, but the sad truth of the matter is that they're going to have to drive a minimum of 4.5 hours if they ever want to see another team.
Yeah.
Sure. And the closest team that they could ever find, if I guess Nipissing in North Bay, if they want to make a team too, they'd be an hour apart. And Sault Ste. Marie is like 3 hours ish. So like if you get the Sault, Nipissing, and Laurentian all at the same time, then you could actually start to generate some players and some competition out of Northern Ontario. But as it stands, the only way I could see this working is if a big university in the north, like Laurentian, picked it up. But then, if they were to ever come to Queens, say Queens invited Laurentian to a tournament, that's going to be like an 8-hour travel.
Yeah.
That's one way. It's going to be around 8-hour drive one way to a Queens tournament.
I think not to the same degree, because Northern Ontario is super far, and Sudbury is just way out there. But I think Guelph to a degree has the same issue. We don't feel it as much because we host 2 tournaments a season.
Yeah, exactly.
But, the next nearest, other than Valhalla, which at least when I was playing, I don't remember them consistently hosting a tournament. the next closest is not, isn't it? Is it not Kingston, which is 4 or 5 hours away, depending on that, and then beyond that, I mean, Montreal is.
It's a weird gap. Like you have Waterloo, Guelph, and Royal City down in kind of like southwest. Then like U of T and Valhalla kind of centralized, and Mississauga, Manatees. I guess you could throw like my team in there. And then you have like big gap, and then you have Queens, and another little gap, and then you have like Ottawa, then you have another little gap, then you have Montreal team. So like it's kind of like a long snaking road. And
just every Quidditch game in Ontario played the shadow with a 401.
Yeah. So like the only way it could really, I think the only way this really spreads as like a national sport to like become a huge thing, because like it's still very niche and it's very unheard of, right? The only way I see this getting more popularized and spreading to those smaller universities is if they all kind of do it together and they can play each other. Like this is only going to start up in Laurentian if Nipissing and the Sioux do it at the same time and they can commit to having games against each other.
Jamie LaFrance, you're on deck. Retired player living up in Sudbury.
Let's talk Corey Smithson into going back to Fleming and reviving that team.
Yeah,
I think they folded the year before that I started playing, and I was super stoked to get to play Quidditch in Lindsay. But anyway,
so I don't know. I'm hoping for the best for the sport. I think the sport needs to do a little improvement on the rules. I think 2-arm tackling would be an interesting one. Spread the net, like a bunch of the stuff that MLQ is doing. I think we could look at that as a great testing environment to see how we can improve the sport. And if we can make these changes on a more major scale to make the sport just more approachable and more more fun, easier to pick up, I think then we can really look to like starting to grow the sport, into a more major thing. Because that's all I really want to see, because it has so much potential and I've had so much fun, and the communities that it creates are amazing. Like,
absolutely,
especially at Queens, like the Queens Quidditch team is my second family. There's no group of people I can count on more to be there if I need somebody, or if I'm having a bad day, I can go see them, or if I just need some space and I need people to leave me alone, like I can count on these people for anything, and I trust them and I love them, and like I just think my university experience would be exponentially worse without having met them. It's just been so incredibly like humbling as well, just meeting all these great people. And as someone who played on a very, I played hockey, which is a very toxic sport, but I had good teammates, right? And I played volleyball at like a very, very high level competitively. And I played on like my club team that I played on for years was just very, very toxic. The guys there like really only cared about themselves, and they just weren't good teammates. Like, I basically got bullied by my teammates on my own team. Like that's, and then I move into Quidditch and these people treat me like a family. It's just so amazing. And I want not just to spread the sport of Quidditch, which I think is just an amazing sport, but I want to spread that community and sense of belonging to all these other schools as well, if we can grow this sport. Because I think it's really like, even when we play against really strong teams, like evenly matched teams where you're very competitive, I can crack jokes in the middle of the game, and my opponent will just laugh at me, and I'll be like, hey, I'll get run over, and I'll get up and look at the dude, and the play's blow down, and I'll just look at him like, dude, you friggin' rolled me, nice tackle, and fist bump him. I just like that there's just so much sportsmanship involved, and it's just a very positive place to be. That's what I really want to focus on spreading alongside the actual sport of Quidditch, is if we can grow this thing to a huge sport that everyone wants to play, but also maintain that amazing positive environment.
For sure. No, I think I just to build on, I think that I think that's one thing Quidditch is kind of like established, is like you said, like the whole community aspect. And I think the whole point of like having the guys on and having these like discussions just to kind of grow like that more athletic and like sportier side of the game, so that we can try to grow the sport and go from there. But I think we'll finish it on that. I think we had a great discussion here. So I just want to thank you guys so much for coming on, providing your insight into the athletic side of the game and all the different stories and whatnot. I think we took a lot of this, and I think hopefully our viewers will enjoy listening to it and get something out of it. So thanks so much for having us on, or having you guys on.
Yeah, well,
It's been a long night.
We listen to you guys talk.
Yeah,
You guys
it was really fun. I really enjoyed it. I hope to do it again if you ever need somebody on, and I hope you didn't regret it. I'm very long-winded, so I get going and I don't stop talking. But I really enjoyed this. I think what you guys are doing right now is just amazing, and I can't wait to listen to all the future episodes, and hopefully be back if you think. We didn't hear enough of this guy talking. Let's get him back. I've never had that happen to me before. Like, I want to hear this guy talk some more, but who knows?
I also appreciate the opportunity. As I mentioned, everybody who talks to me for more than 20 minutes about Quidditch will, hear my opinions on two-arm tackling, and I appreciate having another platform to spread the gospel of two-arm tackling. And
the gospel of Calder.
I think you guys are doing a great thing here. So thanks for having me.
No problem. We'll just quickly plug our Instagram real quick. So for those that are wanting to stay up to date with our content, we have an Instagram. Shout out Nate for putting that together. It's CQQC_podcast if you want to kind of follow along as we post some footage and stuff on there to keep the conversation going. So thanks again, guys, so much, and we'll see everyone in the next episode.